Welcome back to another day in white supremacy MAGA Hell. And in MAGA Hell, we are not talking about the amount of adoption agencies and foster care centers that show up in the Epstein files. This Susan Hamblin bitch ran a adoption agency called Kids to Families. And of course, her sick ass is mentioned in the Epstein files, doing unspeakable things to children. Now, as a black person in America, I always thought adoption agencies were very, very weird, because do you know how hard it is to adopt a child as a black person in this raggedy ass country? A child nobody wants, mind you, okay? They want you making $100,000 or better. You got to have a very smooth and clean background, not even so much as a speeding ticket that could disqualify you. You got to be married, no single mothers, no single fathers, even if you may have the money and the time and all that stuff to take care of the child, you got to be married. I've always thought that these ridiculous standards and rules were just unnecessary. And then, I kind of shooed away and thought, okay, well, obviously you want the best of the best people to adopt children. You want to make sure that they obviously have the money, they have the resources, they can do it, yada, yada, yada. But once again, do you know how hard it is to adopt a child in America? And let's say you only make 50 grand a year. You only make 60 grand a year. They won't let you do it, especially if you're black. Now, mind you, there are plenty of children who grow up in households where their parents only made $50,000, $60,000, sometimes even less. And those kids turn out perfectly fine, loved, all of that. But something told me in my mind that it was something deeper going on with these adoption agencies, and the Epstein files have kind of proven it for me. Not only were they trafficking these children through these agencies, but they were also trafficking them to pedophiles on purpose. Unfortunately, I think that this Epstein shit goes way deeper than any of us could really even imagine, and I definitely think that these adoption agencies are tied into it. Remember this couple? This was a couple who adopted 2 sons just to make CSAM and spread it around on the internet and sell it to perverts. The only way that they were caught is because the pictures of the boys were floating around the internet on the dark web. And I just want to know, what type of third-degree interrogation did these men go through when they went to adopt? And it's not even about them being gay. That has nothing to do with it. What type of psychological evaluation did they go through? I mean, did y'all just hand kids over to these men because they had money and because they're white? Like, I really want to know. Y'all have to understand that a lot of these people who be adopting these kids adopt them for this purpose. Okay? And to those of you who were adopted and found really great homes, that is amazing for you. I'm happy that that's your experience. But for a lot of adopted children, sexual violence is the norm, unfortunately. So I need for people to start unearthing these adoption agency records. I want to know who are the people who are adopting these kids. I want to know their backgrounds. I want to make sure that the children are okay. Are the kids being checked up on? Do they have a social worker? I know in a lot of states, most cases, once you're adopted and once the adoption is finalized and the papers are signed, there's no social worker or anybody who comes to check on the kids. Remember these 2 sick-ass motherfuckers who had their adopted black children living in a barn? A barn. Okay, they were locked from the outside in the barn with a dirt floor. No insulation, no blankets, no bathroom, no nothing. And they worked them from sunup to sundown. Again, there was no social workers. There was nobody checking on these kids to make sure that they were okay and that these people weren't just putting on a front or whatever just to get these kids adopted. Once the ink was dry and the money was exchanged, didn't nobody give a fuck about them kids. And thank God those kids were saved. But how many more children are out there in these type of situations, literally being sold by the government into these situations for trafficking purposes? And yes, slavery is still trafficking. And last but not least, Remember, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has an adopted black son who he adopted when he was like 14 and who they don't speak to, who they kicked out of the house and have no relationship with. And we've never heard from this boy. Now, mind you, MAGA Mike being the super Christian conservative, he totally fits the bill of the conservative Christians who adopt these children for pedophilic reasons. I would not be surprised if that's this boy's story. And look at this dope ass wife sitting over here looking stupid, covering for it. Mind you, especially with everything that's come out in these Epstein files, these women are not innocent. If she knew, and she did nothing. And then also, mind you, they're still married and don't neither one of these two talk to this black adopted boy. I believe he was sex trafficked, period. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got him from the same agency that this woman was trafficking kids through. We live in a sick ass world, people. A sick ass world. Again, it is extremely, extremely hard for black couples to adopt children. It is not an easy process. They give you the third degree. They treat you like a criminal. Even though you may not have nothing on your record, they will literally treat you like a fucking 5-time felon. And now we see why. Because they're trafficking those kids. And they don't want them to go to good homes, loving families. They want to make sure that they have the most traumatic, fucked up experiences that they can ever have. That way they can cycle them right on into their jail and prison systems. Because that's literally the next step out of foster care. Go from one system to the next. Tell me I'm lying.